These people are the Tharu, the indigenous people of the Chaudhary. Despite being the original inhabitants of Nepal's lowlands, they have been the victims of exploitation at the hands of settlers who migrated to their homeland from the hills. In the first half of the 20th century, the Chaudhary was covered in dense forest and ridden with malaria, meaning that other people did not want to live there. Only the Tharu possessed a natural immunity to malaria, enabling them to survive in such a harsh environment. Following the eradication of malaria in the 1950s and 60s, the fertile land of the Chaudhary could no longer be hidden from the eyes of people living in the hills and mountains. Gradually, they began to migrate to the Chaudhary to cultivate the fertile lands. Being naive and illiterate, the Tharu were easily tricked into signing contracts which gave away their ancestral lands for minimal compensation. With no land left to support them, the Tharu found themselves in debt to their new Pahadi landlords, requiring them to work for their landlords until the debt was paid off. But the debt never could be paid off, and the Tharu became slaves, known as kamaiya, bonded labourers.
Malaria is one of the biggest problem for the hillside people. They're not coming down. So, but 1950 is WHO, they eradicate for the malaria. So a lot of people, they coming down. And the Tharu people, they don't know the land value, they don't know the Nepal law, they don't know about for the registration of the land. So slowly, the Tharu people, they lose the land and they become bonded laborers.
The kamaiya bonded labourers were subjected to serious human rights violations by their so-called masters or landlords. Many children were compelled to work for the landlords instead of attending school, and women were subjected to sexual harassment and abuse. These conditions of slavery continued through several generations because the kamaiya families were never able to earn enough to pay off the original debt. The necessity to borrow more money from their landlords for clothes, medicines and other essentials only added to their spiralling debt problems, leaving them with no end in sight to their lives of misery and suppression.
My mother, she's working for the 16 years bounded labor. My father, he's working also bounded labor. My grandfather, he's lose all of the law and putting thumb the papers. So there is a lot of problem for the, lot of picnic cases, and the society is not accepted, and they suicide in a lot of girls. And so many problem for the all of the people is bounded labor family buying and selling every January 14th. That is our New Year's. After New Year's, whole family buying and selling for the look like with cow and the cattle. So this kind of so many problem in the Western Nepal.
However, after 3 decades of exploitation, a small glimmer of hope began to appear in the lives of the kamaiyas. A group of local Tharu youths organised themselves into an organisation to work for the welfare and rights of the kamaiyas. The group made a commitment on the night of Tharu New Year in 1985 to start a peaceful struggle against the heinous system which embroiled their families' lives. The campaign began with 34 members who called themselves the Dumrigaon organisation. Over time, the organisation grew in popularity and transformed itself into the now infamous Nepali NGO known as Backward Society Education, or BASE. From this moment on, there was no turning back.
When my grandfather he lose land, my mother he's in the slavery, my father he's in the slavery, then I'm thinking why that is happened, because that is the lack of education, lack of awareness, lack of organization. Then we establish base. Base have in the two part we are doing. One called for the non-violence conflict movement, for the right-based approach, human rights, building human rights. So second thing we have the delivery, service delivery system, which is the educations, income generating, this kind of program. So one of the very important, base already committed, and we have all of the people is committed. Base have in the about 240,000 members. We are committed for the bounded labor, slavery system, and this kind of this kind of system in Nepal. When we started for the bounded labor movements, we have in the serial of the movement. That is the one thing is the good for the bounded labor movement. That is the peace demonstration. That is one of the non-violent conflict movement, and the people who is the suppression, they fight for their rights. That is the one thing is very good for this movement. I think Nepal have to learn for this kind of thing also. And the second thing is the every year only for the 2,000, 3,000 bounded labor only got in the realization. Every time 2000 to 2011, now is the 10 years, almost for the 10 years. Every time we came in the Kathmandu and we have sitting outside of the parliament, and police is taking all in the police is taking all of the police locket. Then we have the agreement with the government. Then 2000 they realization. So it takes time, but that is the I think is government not serious. We have to push for the civil society. We have to push. Then government have to make the seriousness, and we have to inbounded labor in Western Nepal. Not only Western Nepal, all kind of slavery. Halia kind of slavery, Kamlari kind of slavery, different kind of child labor kind of slavery. I think it's only we need to strong law, strong mechanism, strong rehabilitation package is the very important.
BASE began a non-violent people's movement across Nepal for the total liberation of Kamaiyas. Peaceful protests were organised and legal petitions to government were sent. Over 200,000 ordinary people participated in one of Nepal's greatest periods of non-violent political struggle. As a result of this movement, the government declared the complete abolition of the kamaiya system on the 17th of July 2000. This was the apex of the kamaiya movement. However, the joy and happiness experienced at that moment did not last long. The now freed Kamaiyas, who had been living for generations on their landlord's properties, were suddenly thrown out onto the streets. They had no place to live or food to eat. Of approximately 200,000 Kamaiyas who were freed that day, many thousands of families have still not received the land which was promised to them by the government. Thousands of their children have since been forced to return to conditions of bonded labour to pay off newly incurred debts. Their lives are still racked by poverty and suffering. Many rely on daily wage labour to enable them to live a hand-to-mouth existence, and they are still waiting for the government to fulfil their promise for full rehabilitation.
Formally, Nepal government they declare bounded labor is they got the freedoms, but still 23,000 people they got land, but still some of the bounded labor they doesn't got land, and still is the lot of children problem, lot of children bounded labor. I think it's Nepal is the 1 million children is the bounded labor. So we like to in for the all kind of slavery. If government is not taking the responsibility, I think it's NGO only not solve the problems. So that is we are thinking for the High Commission of the Child Labor, more child inspector, more rehabilitation package. So then law is need more strong law, who is the keeping in the bounded labor, we have to put in the jail, and the government have to put in the for the rehabilitation package. So that is the strong mechanism only solved for the bounded labor problem in Nepal.
The needs today of the freed Kamaiyas are education, employment, healthcare and full political participation in a democratic Nepal. BASE continues to strive through peaceful means to advocate for these needs, as well as providing its own grassroots services on the Terai. Full support and commitment is still needed from the government to finally resolve the trials of the kamaiya bonded labourers. BASE will never give up its peaceful struggle for justice.